Want to have your own business but don't want to start from scratch? Franchising might be the answer you're looking for. Welcome to the Level Up with Nick Lopez show, the show that brings you thought leaders in business, franchising, and high-performance personal development. Whether you're a buyer, seller, franchisee, franchisor, or a consultant, find everything you need to know about franchising right here. Own a business without the pain and financial losses that come with creating it. Find the time, freedom, and financial independence you can have through entrepreneurship. Learn how franchising can help you get there. Listen up and get ready for another episode of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.
Welcome to the Level Up show with Nick Lopez, where we have the absolute pleasure of learning from thought leaders in franchising, business, and high-performance personal development. Today's guest scaled a multi-hundred location national franchise in the restoration space called AdvantaClean. He was also featured on Undercover Boss. He also founded the Dudan Group, and most recently, Homefront Brands. Jeff Dudan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nick. Excited to be on here today with you.
So I know you're somebody that practices team building and gratitude. So I know you don't say that lightly.
It's 100%. And, I know that you and I have a lot in common, and our backgrounds both started as in the painting industry. So I'm really excited for your show here. I know the content's great and really happy to be on.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for helping people level up in franchising and entrepreneurship. I know it's something that, is a mission that you, so devoutly are committed to, helping America and the working class and doing it through entrepreneurship. And so speaking of which, I know a lot of people don't necessarily have a great understanding of franchising before they get into it, right? So many times franchising is viewed as, McDonald's or Burger King. There's not always the understanding that, franchising is so many other things like painting or restoration. And so, Jeff, I'm just curious, how did franchising find you?
Well, that's so true, Nick. There are so many non-food franchises out there. And I think people drive down the street in this country and they look left and they look right and they see all the great brands that are there, the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the Hardee's. And you think, well, that's a franchise. But what people maybe miss is that the people that come to your home and clean your gutters or paint your house or do all kinds of things, work on your air conditioning system. Many of those businesses are also franchised, because franchising is the greatest wealth creation business model that's ever been invented. And I take that from Matt Holler, who's our CEO of our trade organization here, the IFA. But it really is. And there's so much, if you want to be part of a community of people that are trying to change their lives through entrepreneurship, if you want to take advantage of a great system where somebody's already figured out all of the things that you need to and put the systems and the processes and the people to make it successful, franchising can really be applied to almost any business. And more today it is. So very excited to talk about it. And franchising originally found me back in the early 90s. So much like you, I was a college athlete. I know you were a wrestler. I was a football player, and I came out to Appalachian State University from Chicago out to Boone, North Carolina on a football scholarship. And I really wanted to stay over the summer. And I think much like you, I needed to find a way to I had too much month at the end of my money. So I needed to find a way to fill the gap. And I did that where I talked my roommate into starting a painting business. So the first year we went around the football office and we got some jobs from some staff members and people that worked at the university. But at the end of that summer, we approached the property managers who managed the student housing. And so the next year, we put together a team of athletes that were there over the summer to take classes. And we really developed a powerful business painting student housing apartments. From there, Hurricane Andrew had hit South Florida, and a buddy who had painted for me called and said, "Hey, I'm with this restoration business, helping the people of South Florida recover." And my partner and I, it was the end of the painting season, so we went down there and we cut our teeth in the insurance restoration business over the next 18 months. And it was at that point in time, what I realized was there were ServPro was there, Pure Clean was there. There was several franchise systems that were operating in the area. And we had worked for, it was actually not a franchise, it was a dealership model at the time, but it had a national footprint. And so I went and I took a look. They were headquartered in South Florida, and I went and I spent a day and looked at becoming part of their dealership network. And what I realized in that network in particular, they were a little bit behind the times in terms of technology and what they provided. They were a system that had been around for a while, and they really hadn't moved forward. And of course, we were being on the younger end of things. We were really working with computers and things like that. It sounds kind of crazy to say, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, I remember, it was a rarity for people to have a computer in their dorm room and things like that. So, but I thought, well, if we're going to be in this space, we probably want to leave the door open for us to expand it as nationally. So that's what we did. And we started the business in 1994 in Central Florida. And then in 95, I came back up here to start our second location. And from there, we grew that to a direct business over the next 10 years to a $10 to $20 million a year business doing restoration, duct cleaning, responding to disasters and things like that. And then really pursued franchising in earnest in 2005, coming back from Hurricane Katrina. So we sold our company stores under a franchise model in 2006, 7, and 8. And then in 2009, we launched to the marketplace. And we had, we hit it at a time. It's what's very interesting about this time right now, where we are sitting here in the end of 2022. We've got some inflation. We've got some corporate uncertainty. We have people out there. We're having some layoffs, which is very similar to when I launched AdvantaClean in 2009 after the great financial crisis. So as people are, 4 years in, we already had 130 operating units out there. So, right now, when corporations are contracting perhaps a little bit, or maybe uncertain about what the future's going to hold, people are more likely to say, wow, what's a business that I can get into today, come to training in a month and start making money in a quarter. And service franchising certainly fits that requirement. So we're very excited to, over the last year and a half, have put together 6 brands and Homefront Brands. And we're preparation again is meeting opportunity, and we are meeting the needs of people that are, have a problem to solve in their life for either income short-term or equity long-term, or put kids through college or anything like that. So, that's the gap that we're stepping into to fill. And we're very excited at Homefront Brands to have the opportunity to do so.
What an interesting perspective, Jeff. I don't think too many people are going to say that 2008 posed opportunity, nor, coming up on 2023 with so much looming around, recession. And, I think every week now I'm seeing major tech corporations laying off a lot of folks, and, the stock going down, and yet you're saying that there is opportunity in that, obviously living it out and having confidence in a similar type of market. I really commend you for that, Jeff. And obviously that's the sort of leadership that comes in a franchise system, especially behind somebody like yourself. And so, as you were talking, I was thinking through, as you're scaling this franchise business, I'm sure there were some learnings that came in, along the journey. I'm sure it wasn't all growth and success. I love really just getting to, beyond the success, because that's clearly where ceilings are broken, which lead to success. And so you've experienced so much growth and success. And so I'm curious, Jeff, what were some of those learnings along your journey with AdvantaClean?
Specifically with respect to franchising, I think, Nick, we have an obligation to reduce any friction that we can for the franchisees. And so we've always felt like anything that can be centralized reasonably should be centralized. And anything, there's certain things that can only be done in the local market. So building a team, creating a staff, training those people, selling at the front door, the fulfillment of the services, networking, and being big in the community, being the face of whatever it is you decide your brand wants to be in the community is really important. And certainly franchise owners, the right kind of franchise owners, they believe in your mission, whatever your brand's mission is, and they want to be a part of it, and they want to be a visible part of that in the local community. So on the other side of that, good franchisors are going to centralize the thing. So, don't make your franchisors turn into digital marketers if they don't have to. Don't make them turn into technologists. Don't make them, things that can be done well and provided in a way, I think is a hallmark of really good franchising. So we learned that. And I think if anything, and I've said this a number of times in a number of venues, you got to have people around the table that have some visibility around the corners, because you want to make sure that to the greatest extent possible, when you put a franchise system out there, that it's ready for the franchisees, and that you don't have to go to them 3 years down the road and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but we've got to switch technology platforms. It's going to be a huge hassle for everybody. You may or may not be at a good place in your business to do it, but the switching cost of core systems in a franchise system is very, very high. So, and I think, a lot of franchises start kind of with friends and family, and they operate on the systems that are operating in the single unit and say, here, use this, here, use that. And you kind of get that out there. But then very quickly, once you realize that you're going to have a mass of people out there that, hopefully, you've been able to get the right kind of people around the table that have given you the right kind of advice, and you've been able to make the right kind of investments so that you never have to put a network-wide system through, an event that's going to interrupt their business and the flow of it and create friction. Because, building relationships with your franchisees of trust, and it's, trust is an interesting concept. It's, mine's evolved really. I trust people to be who they have shown me to be, but but you don't have to make the same decisions I would make faced with the same situations for me to trust you. Just as long as you're consistent, and I know, as long as people know where they stand, they're usually okay. So, if you want your franchisees to trust you, then, the more research, tested, and proven your systems are, the more thoughtful you've been about, how they're going to spend their time and energy and their dollars. It's really important to get the fundamentals set early. And I think it's all out there. Now, you might have to run around and talk to a bunch of people to get it. And, maybe people, depending on who you run into, they might not want to give it away for free, but the information is available. If you're diligent in doing your research, you can get over the target of what really quality, responsible franchising looks like. And I think, when I get into systems that get stuck at 30 or 40 or 50 units, a lot of times it's because there's too much complexity inside of the model, because simplicity scales and complexity fails. And at some point, complexity, the wrong type of complexity is going to create friction and entropy on any business system.
So it sounds like those were some lessons, right?
Absolutely.
Getting as much of that work done up front to minimize friction and simplify, streamline. I love what you said there. Simplicity scales, complexity fails. What a quote. And I think that quote, it's it's so profound. I don't even, it's much like anything that's simple. Simplicity is genius, right? That simple statement is so genius. And so, Jeff, as you're scaling a franchise, you alluded to Homefront Brands and the amount of brands that are within that platform in the home service space. You're now to a point where you have completely scaled a nationwide company, made it a household name, and are on to doing that with multiple brands. And so as you're bringing on a franchise system, a franchise business, and you're thinking about scaling it, what are some of those cycles that the business goes through, right? I think so many times it's thought of in number of locations, 0 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to hundreds. What are some of those categories that you think of as you're approaching the maturity, the growth of scaling a franchise?
Well, interesting. And I don't want to answer it in numbers, but let me tell you the three things that we think about every day. Okay. So first of all, we think about awarding great owners into the brand. And, David McKinnon, who was the founder of Molly Maid, shared this with me. He was a brilliant man and he was very generous in sharing, the things that he learned. But he said, you always, there's a couple of things. He said, always stay close to development, because I don't care if you're McDonald's or anybody else, an average franchise system is going to have a continuity rate of 93 to 95%. There's going to be some people that, they age out, somebody got sick, they've had tremendous success, they want to sell their business. There's always going to be some churn in your system. And the best systems keep that to 5 to 7%. And so to replace that, plus to have net new growth, you've always got to be adding new and awarding great new franchise owners into the business. They bring their thoughts, they bring their ideas, they bring their energy, they bring their resources, they bring their contacts. So if a system has the right culture and it's set up in a transparent way to accept these people and really to onboard all of the things that they bring into the platform, a rising tide lifts all boats, and it brings it in. So you constantly got to be awarding new franchises into the system. It doesn't matter if you're Subway or whoever you are. You're constantly working on attracting people to the brand. The second thing we think about is average unit volume. And, it costs the same to support a $200,000 business as it does a $2 million business. So, making sure that, and that the territory structure is right to support larger businesses, that we've got the building inventory so that every franchise owner has the opportunity to really perform in the way that we know the business can perform. And it creates, it just creates, happy and profitable are the two metrics at the top of the house, and people will only be happy for so long if they're not profitable. So you got to be happy and you got to be profitable. And the bottom line starts with a good top line. So can't have a great bottom line without a top line, right? And if it makes dollars, it makes sense. So that's it. And then the last thing is NPS, Net Promoter Score. And that's from our franchisees. We want to make sure, and we want to survey them and test them different ways at different times, but always getting around the fact that, this is something that they would do again. And if, what do we need to do, from our perspective, and I'm not saying like we enable franchisees. I mean, we hold them accountable, and it's really about an adult relationship and holding them accountable to do the things that they need to do, and us being held accountable to do the things we need to do to make sure that we're getting their satisfaction with it. And then Net Promoter Score also out to the end user customers. So, so we really, it's about, awarding, growing the system, because we owe that to our franchisees to have a steady stream of new people constantly coming into the brand to take over their units if they're, ready to retire or do something great, or and then, adding new points of distribution so that we can continue to be more relevant in the marketplace. growing average unit volume, and then achieving a certain level of net promoter score. And really those three things, if you pay attention to those three things and all of the underlying things that go into it, you're going to be over the target.
I love that. And I always talk about, when we're coaching, we're very much a sales organization. So, when we're coaching sales on a location level and to our sales folks, just the sales system within Lime, I often talk about behavior goals as opposed to number goals. It's easy to say, I'm going to sell this amount this year. And, that's the traditional salesperson mentality. But the reality is it comes down to the behavior. And if you set the right behavior goals, those sales goals that you have will come into fruition. And I think your approach there is right in par, right? It's, if you focus on the fundamentals, the behavior that takes a franchise system throughout its lifespan, you're going to break those ceilings along the way. And clearly, number one is franchise owner profitability. And secondly, customer satisfaction, that net promoter score. And clearly there's a lot of components that surround that create that. But at the end of the day, that will take a franchise system through its life cycle, which obviously you're doing that not just on a singular approach, but with multiple franchise companies. Thanks for sharing that, Jeff. I definitely leveled up. I'm just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, what were the ceilings that you broke, right? What were some of those growth milestones? Is you're going through all of these learnings, what are some of those ceilings that you can reflect on, those key milestones that happened for you with AdvantaClean? So
think about where we are. All right. This is the week of Thanksgiving, right? I pull up here this morning and there's a lot of dark offices, right? People are working from home. They're getting more work done, but people are traveling to see their family. Then we're going to get in next week and it's going to be kind of a recovery week. And then we're going into holiday season with parties and stuff like that. And then you got Christmas and New Year's. But what happens on the 31st for most businesses? Well, the scoreboard becomes permanent. At the end of the year, that's what it is, man. That's your sales, that's your numbers, that's your profit. So, without any funny accounting, that's you're gonna post the score, and that's gonna be the end of the game. And the new game starts on January 1st. So, but there's a lot of distractions and there's a lot of excuses. And if you're off your target goals right now, there's 5-6 weeks here to hit your numbers. So if you're missing your goals, you don't compromise your goals, you increase your actions. We have certain businesses that we know. I also own a fitness platform called Thrive More Brands with Beam Light Sauna and Rockbox Fitness. And by the way, I bought the Rockbox Fitness brand right before COVID. So we're launching a fitness brand, and I owned it about, I don't know, maybe a year, and we had gotten development going and we had been selling deals and it was going great. And then boom, COVID hits, right? And, we had a choice. We had a choice to say, do we, and the interesting enough, we were still small enough to be nimble. I mean, we might've had 20 locations open at the time or something, but we were small enough to be nimble. And we had a choice. We could say, well, we can shut everything down and be fearful and all that, or we can double down on growth right now, because this isn't going to last forever. And if people joined us today, by the time we're coming out of, people's health is going to be more important to it than ever. There's great people available that have been furloughed from other national fitness chains. So we're able to go out and find some great people. And we grew a fitness concept that was emerging right through COVID. And now we'll have 57 open and, 160 sold. And we just did 3 deals last week. So You choose the perspective you take on external things that are outside your control. You can't control that, but you can control your reaction to it. And I think you have to take a look and say, what would be the least fear-based reaction that I could take, and be opportunist inside of that. But in that business, if you do a certain number of tasks a day, and if you do the behaviors, it's going to lead to a certain outcome. And there's a direct correlation to the number of behaviors that you do and the outcome that you get. And any business is the same way. So as you get into the end of the year here, and you're saying, all right, well, I'm off my sales goal by $50,000. I need to sell a few more paint jobs or whatever it is. There are actions you can do. A boiler room. You can go back into your funnel and look at every job starting with the last 90 days and call every single one of those people that didn't close and see where they're at and offer them a discount. You can go back to the 90 days before that and go back through your pipeline. You can call them and ask them for a referral. There are things that you can do to increase your actions. And if you can accustom your team to like winning in the big moments, right? And by the way, maybe you don't want them to work the Friday after Thanksgiving, but maybe there's some days in here that people are usually going to say, well, nobody wants to hear from us because it's the holiday season. I don't think that's true. They're probably more open to hear from you because everybody else has stopped calling them. So, get out there and, I like to say the music is made between the notes, and we get rewarded in private for the things that in public for the things that we do in private. So, I find that this time of year, not only gratitude, taking stock of where I am, trying to do some goal setting for next year, but also, some of the things that should have been done, making an effort to get those things done, and in the time, and working on a few of the most critical things when other people are maybe saying, hey, I'm gonna just phone it in here, and whatever the results are, they're going to be, and I can't impact it. I've always found that you can swing a deal, or you can influence an outcome if you sprint hard to the finish line.
Oh, yeah, well said. And one of the things you said there was how you deal with the fear, right? Oftentimes, I talk about it. Oftentimes, fear steals opportunities, and it can steal opportunities over weeks, over months, over quarters, over years. And the reality is that fear doesn't just come along and say, hey, I'm fear, I'm holding you back, I'm stealing opportunities. It's a little bit more tricky than that, right? And it's generally what you mentioned there. Oh, it's the holidays, right? And so I'm not going to have the results or the engagement that I would otherwise have. Or, maybe it's the recession. I'm going to sit back and follow the narrative, and the big tech companies are laying people off. Maybe you just got laid off, right? It's doom and gloom, and it's easy to take a practical example of whatever it is that will allow you to stay handcuffed and paralyze you from taking action. And so much of execution is about gaming yourself, and everybody's different. Some more analytical, some are more people focused. And so you really have to understand yourself and whatever inner voice and folks and voices from the outside that contribute to keeping you from executing. At the end of the day, it comes down to execution and just very simple behavior goals. And so, Jeff, you're speaking to some pieces of wisdom here. If you were to talk about how franchise owners become successful, what are some of the themes of a franchise owner being successful? I'm sure there are some universal themes, whether it's in the fitness space, the Homefront Brands, back to the AdvantaClean days. What are those themes that create a successful franchise owner?
Right. So here I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth here. Right. And then I'm gonna tell you one thing and I'm gonna tell you the other thing. And I think the balance between the two. So number one, people that do the people piece well. Generally, that's important as the owner of a franchise team, because you've got to build a team. You've got to be an inspired leader, meaning you have to be able to connect what's in it. Like, okay, what's in it for you? What's in it for the business? And then how does that align with the world? If you can get an individual's purpose aligned with the purpose of the business, and then some, broader purpose, then, that's when things tend to go really well. People that do the people piece well, understand that, I think you said a culture eats strategy for breakfast, but execution trumps everything. So, people, if you're going to build a team that you want the same thing to happen in your absence that happens in your presence, then, understanding, all of the things that go into, building that team and building a place that's good for people and giving them clarity, showing up with energy, just creating the right kind of environment that people want to come and people want to stay, so that there's a law of attraction to you. And if you have those kind of people, then when you're not on the phone, and those people are on the phone with a customer, that's going to come true. These people are going to like what they do. They're going to be bought into why you do it. And all of that makes a difference. Right now, talking out of the other side of my mouth is, great. And I will say too, here's a soundbite, right? Is, some people get, your painters get paid by the hour, your salespeople get paid commission, but leaders get paid by the conversation. So the conversations that you have leading a business with customers, with vendors, with other business owners, with referral partners, and with your employees, that is the things that people remember forever. It only takes a moment to create a moment with somebody. And, the things people are going to hang on the words that you say, and, pointing out something that somebody did well, just in the moment, taking a moment just to slow down and be present with somebody. I mean, those types of moments, the compound interest on those to the velocity and the quality of your business over time, it's unmeasurable. And people they will refer you when you're not there, because our names travel farther than we ever do. So now on the other side of it, great managers use numbers, not words. So accountability, you talked about sales. Like every business should have, if you're training once a week, or you have all calls once a month, you need sales KPIs, you need bright spots. Here's somebody that got a great sale. Here's sales updates. Like sales, you got to make sure that you're making sure that your owners understand that they should never be far from revenue. As a business owner, you better, you never want to be, if you're not working on revenue, you're driving somewhere to work on revenue. Because at the end of the day, when that stops, then, now you got a problem to fix. So, being at the tip of the sword as a business owner, especially in the service industry, is from a revenue perspective, is always important. And then making sure that there's clear KPIs, because how can you manage people's activities and behaviors if they're not, do more? Well, that's not a really good instruction. It's like do 11. If I do 11 additional tasks every day, the compound effect of that to my business over time, again, it's immeasurable. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And you can never, if I own a hotel and I didn't rent a room yesterday, well, that $89, and that tells you where I stay, but that $89 is gone forever, right? So you can never get that, Tuesday night hotel room rental back. So you got to make sure that every day, if you want to get the compound interest on your activities and behaviors, that you measure and you execute and you follow through. So doing the people piece well, right, is a leader's job. And then also making sure that you're following through on the things that need to happen every day from a numbers perspective that are going to lead to the outcomes that everybody's agreed upon.
These are things that are most certainly skills, right? These things don't come naturally. They're not easy. Creating accountability, having tough conversations, casting vision, having a vision that's big enough, a culture with a vision that's big enough to fit everyone on the team's vision, right? Aligning it, as you were talking about, that's a skill. In the same regard as getting the right folks on the bus, right? That can execute, that are willing to be coached, that are willing to be held accountable because they know that you as their coach, is ultimately getting them to their goal, and together they're more powerful than just that singular salesperson trying to hit their quota or their bonuses. But you mentioned KPIs, and that's a skill, as opposed to saying, hey, be better, do better, make more sales, go, those are very broad. It's a skill to focus on leading indicators and to, be proactive with those lagging indicators, right? Those are skills that have to be acquired as a franchise owner if you really want to scale beyond yourself. If you want those behaviors to be done when you're not there, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And I think, so if you think about it, the first thing for an entrepreneur is say, what do I need to do to be an entrepreneur? I get people ask me that all the time. And what advice? First thing is know thyself, and, confront the brutal facts about yourself and who you are. We use a tool called Culture Index across our entire team. And, by the way, we all have a blueprint that we are all, we're not good at everything. Nobody's good at everything. So first off, if you're the first person in the boat, then you've got to figure out, what are your skill sets? What are you really, really, really great at? What are the strengths that you can leverage as a franchise owner? Some are going to come in with a sales talent, and they're going to be rainmakers, and they want to go out and sell everything. Other people are going to be more operational and things like that. And that doesn't mean that's not good or bad. What that means is you've got to build a team of diversity. You should have diversity in skill set, diversity in personality, diversity in education, tools, race, all of these different things, but you don't want to have diversity in values. The values, everybody should align on what the business values are and buy into that. And the thing about values is it's I'm not saying altruistic type things. The values that go with the business need to fit the business, and they need to serve the business, and they need to serve the customers of the business. And, the values are kind of like a rules. They provide organizational boundaries. They let people know what's expected when you're engaged with other team members and the general public and customers. So you do, but the leader of the business, the franchisee, and their key people, they need to be the ones that exemplify the rights behaviors and live the values of the business and bring energy and provide clarity and all of these things inside of the business. But they also need to understand that, you're not going to get the team right unless you're honest with yourself. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of small business owners start when they first start is they hire, I saw it online. Somebody was like, I can tell in the first 30 seconds whether I like somebody and I want to hire them. Well, you like them because they're just like you. And a bunch of people like me running this business over here would go nowhere because there's things that I don't do well. And you need other people to, that want to sit in that seat and do that. So I think knowing yourself and have intellectual humility around who you are. Look, it's okay that you don't know how to do everything, but it's not okay if you pretend that you can do everything and you resist the training, education, learning. You're going to hold the business back. So, why do so many small businesses stay small businesses? Because they rise to the level of the competency and the intellectual humility of the owner.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So Jeff, what is your Culture Index profile?
Are you familiar with Culture Index?
Are you an enterpriser,
I'm a trailblazer.
Trailblazer. Okay. All right. I'm a technical expert.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Trailblazer. Okay.
Well, we would work extremely well together.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We started using Culture Index a couple years ago, and I absolutely love it. It's I guess the inner technical expert in me, the inner nerd that really enjoys a platform like that. You mentioned the rainmakers, so we've realized that the rainmakers, persuaders, and then surprisingly the craftsmen and the tech experts do really good in our sales role. Right? There's like 18 profiles.
Mm-hmm.
The craftsmen, time and time again, we have franchise owners that just do a tremendous job in their craftsmen. Clearly, that is taking a process and just lining it up, knocking it down, lining it up, knocking it down. You talk about execution. The craftsmen do such a great job of that naturally. And so anyways, I can nerd out, mention all these profiles. No one will know what we're talking about. But yeah, clearly, I think the point is understand who the folks are on your team. What are their strengths? What are your strengths? What are the traits that everybody can fit into their position on the bus, right? And ultimately unite under values, culture, the vision, and get in stride together. So, Jeff, you've mentioned some tremendous things related to franchise owners being successful. What's the flip side of that? What are some pitfalls that you've noticed that are common that franchise owners can learn from?
Well, I think it's just the flip side of the things we talked about. I mean, first of all, many times people will come from corporate America, and big companies evolve to a certain place where you really have to watch your turf, and there's a lot of conflict, and it may be healthy conflict, fighting over budgets, fighting over territories, fighting over resources to launch your product versus another one, whatever it is, wherever you come from. And then you come into a small business franchise, and you really have to resolve conflicts in a healthy manner. So so I think as people get into the franchise business model, taking a healthy approach and really stepping back and saying, first of all, there's a plan here. And I have the curse of knowledge because I've been in corporate America for 20 years and I know a lot. And I'm going to try to, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to try to bend this opportunity to the way that I've learned to do business, which is going to make me more comfortable, however, probably less successful, or I'm going to say, there's a system here, I'm going to follow it. And until I'm on the leaderboard and I'm up on the panels talking about, how I'm in the top 20% of the network at franchise conference or annual convention, then I'm going to follow the plan. And we ask, one of the agreements we make going out of training is no genius attacks for 12 months, meaning give us 12 months for us to prove to you why, in all the decades of business experience, why the business needs to be this way. Because the longer that you put off succumbing, that's a horrible word, the longer that you put off acquiescing, let me just pile on with another bad word, to the systems of the franchise, then the farther it's going to be, longer it's going to be till you get in the chute and kind of take off, right? Because there's really, there's a lot of different ways to do things, and and do we want to let aggressive salespeople hunt? And are we intellectually humble where we're always, if people find a new way to access markets and get business, that we're always going to be, we have forums for sales. Sales things like that every week, every month, like that. But the core things about the business and the systems, follow the plan, would be the thing. And, and then if you become, or when you become a top performer, and you may get brought into the Franchise Advisory Council or on these peer things, contribute openly for the benefit of the system, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And I can tell you, people will always remember if you contributed and you helped them and you came at it the right way. So it's kind of being part of a community, making sure that you want to be part of the community. Take a, if we always have service in all of our values. It's servant's heart, servant leadership. Take a servant approach to the other franchisees and say, how can we all learn? How can we all get to better? I think that's a great way to leverage the community. If you go off and say, well, I had success in the semiconductor industry, and, I'm going to bring all of my sales practices and systems and everything, and I'm going to try to make this business into that because it makes me more comfortable just to operate the way I've always operated. There's probably some risk in that. And I think it would depend on exactly what you're talking about. But, I think that would fall outside of, trusting the process, following the plan, seeking to learn and understand before you seek to change.
Again, more skills that have to be developed, right? But this is probably the most important skill. Yeah, my gosh, you have so much corporate and life experience. And here it is. Here's the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and to realize everything that goes into being your own boss. But yet, we asked for 12 months for no genius to come out quite yet, but rather to focus on joining the top 20 in the franchise system. What just nuggets of gold there, Jeff. Thank you for that. I truly am humbled. You being on the show, my gosh, I feel like I could just talk to you for hours about so many different things here. But I'm curious. Obviously you're a visionary and obviously an executor, right? But vision without execution. You've clearly shown a world-class ability to do both. And so, what is your vision for Homefront Brands?
Well, it's interesting. We, at the core of it, we set out to do with excellence all of the things that I had to sacrifice in building AdvantaClean. Whether that be, things that we could have done better, we want to do with excellence. So everything from, territory model to technology, we've invested so heavily in technology and making our data actionable and accessible to the marketing, to just, really just saying, if I could do it, if I can do it as close to perfect as I would want to this time around, so that we're creating a durable, agile company that's going to be here in 100 years. Like, that's the foundation that we're laying down. So, we're not, we have a bit of a longer time horizon on this. I mean, I committed to everybody that's joined up to, kind of a 10-year time horizon to say, I'm going to be, this is going to be the, probably the last and, but I think the most materially perfect thing that we've done. I mean, we're really just really challenging ourselves every day to make sure that we've left no stone unturned in market strategy, how we go to market, supplier relationships, driving customer leads, creating an economic model that, is going to last forever. And we're just really, going around and borrowing from, there's a half a dozen really great service franchise platforms out there, some individual companies, but over the last 15 years, I've always admired the way this company did this or this company did that. And I knew that it was a key to their success. And so we've really taken all of that and just said, if we could do it the very best that we could possibly do it, what would that look like? So that's what we've set out to do. And, and really to, and then I think today in this country, there's the need for entrepreneurship. in everywhere across this country, in middle America and all the towns out there for people. I mean, you've got massive inflation, you got interest rates that are going up. There's going to be people that are going to be unintended victims of other people's decisions that were not theirs. And but they still have to keep the lights on, and they got to keep the food on the table. So, are people willing to take a little bit more risk and take their future into their own hands and join companies like Lime Painting or one of the Homefront brands and say, you know what, I'm willing to step outside my comfort zone. Half a life is showing up. I'm willing to go out there and be the face of this in the community. I'm willing to sit down with people and talk to them about why they should join our company, and that we're up to something and we're going somewhere. And if we do that, then we're really creating. We're adding to the financial foundation of this country through entrepreneurship and small business, and it's meaningful. And the gig economy is one thing, and I think that's people working remotely, people doing things through gig and Upwork and stuff like that. That's certainly one way to go. But that really lacks, I think, the community building aspect of a franchise business, and also the equity building aspect of a franchise business. Because when you stop taking those Upwork jobs, I mean, the revenue's over. And ideally, we're creating businesses that people can, go and sit with their families at Thanksgiving and the holidays and all that kind of stuff, and still have a valuable asset that's making money.
Well said. So obviously, the vision with Homefront Brands is excellence, system-wide excellence, from the operations to the tech to the marketing to the leadership team. And this all comes from learnings, right? Having firsthand experience of doing it, and here over the next 10 years, making it into the final stretch. So Jeff, you definitely have a huge fan in myself. I commend you for everything you're doing. I think it's tremendous. You're doing it the right way, and you most certainly have the franchise owners top of mind in everything that you're doing. Jeff, like I said, I could just chat with you about these things for just hours and hours. Unfortunately, we can't. Maybe I'll have you on again. But thank you so much for joining us, helping us level up on the Level Up Show. Again, Jeff, thank you.
My pleasure, Nick. Right back at you. And it's been great. Look forward to doing it again.
So if anybody is interested in getting in touch with you, how can they do that?
So my two best platforms would be LinkedIn. So just go to Jeff Dudan, JEFFDUDAN, or Instagram, oddly enough, is where a lot of people reach out to me. Not that the pictures are that great, but seems to be. And then you can always go to Homefront Brands, homefrontbrands.com, or if you want to see other content that I put out, you can go to dudanbrands.com, or if you want to really get to know me, and you can go to amazon.com and buy my book, Discernment, the Business Athlete's Regimen for a Great Life Through Better Decisions. People that are looking at a business or growing a business or early in their entrepreneurial career, there's just a ton of models of thought and nuggets inside of there that would really help you and inform your thinking and inform your journey with my journey. So that's where you can get me, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Well, you heard it right from Jeff. Hop on to Amazon, check out the book. I definitely recommend it. And if you enjoyed this show, please subscribe. It's how we are able to grow and do just this, have more thought leaders, influencers in business, franchising, and high performance personal development to help you level up. Also, like this video, but more importantly, contribute to the conversation. Please drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts. We covered so many different topics, and I'm sure you leveled up. Contribute to the conversation, share some thoughts around tips for franchise owners and how they can be successful. And as always, level up.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show. Remember, it's never too late to get started on your entrepreneurial journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed today's segment. Catch us again next week and visit limepainting.com for more of the Level Up with Nick Lopez show.